everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my lists or stacks of books that I have that I want to read in preparation for my trip to Portugal and Spain. It's coming up in June. This is what I'm like focusing on reading currently, you know? So yes, we will start with my Portugal stack because I've already read, or I'm currently reading a book from that stack, and I've already read one this year, which is so cool. So I'm currently reading this book, which is called The Mayas, I think that's how you pronounce it, by Asade Queiroz. It's around 650 or so pages. I have maybe 200-ish pages left. And this is an epic classic, kind of written in the 1800s, or set at least in the 1800s, about this family, the Mayas. We hear about the grandfather and the father for like the first 50 pages. But our main character is this dude named Carlos, who is wealthy, who's just kind of a bro. He's hanging out with his other wealthy buds. They're chatting about politics and art, and they're sleeping with a bunch of married women. And that is what this is about. I'm liking it so far. We're getting a lot of descriptions of the landscape in Portugal, lots of different cities that they're visiting. So I'm really into that. And I love hearing about different cultural influences. I feel like I'm getting a lot of that in this. And yeah, so we're reading the Mayas. Apparently that's something that everybody, or a lot of people in Portugal, have to read in high school. And I'll link down below the video that I learned about that book from, because that video was such an informative video to help me pick out books that I wanted to read and how to pronounce things, to the best of my ability at least. So again, I'll link that down below. That book was really hard to get my hands on, like super hard to get my hands on. It is not easy to find, which is really surprising because it seems like it is a big national classic. The next couple of books I have in my stack for Portugal are two books by Fernando Pessoa, because he is from Portugal. He's a poet that apparently writes a lot about all these different identities that he has. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't read them yet. I've had this on my shelves for years, and I know a lot of people love this. And I'm not sure how much of this is like journal, vignettes, poetry, diary, nonfiction, or fiction. I really have absolutely no idea. But we have the Book of Disquiet, and then we have this little Penguin Modern edition that's called I Have More Souls Than One, which is a collection of poetry, so I'm excited to jump into this. I already kind of started one, but I have to restart it because I didn't finish it. Yeah, so we have some Fernando Pessoa, which is exciting. The next book that I have in the Portugal stack is by Antonio Lobo Antunes, and that is The Land at the End of the World, which is translated by Margaret Jewel Costa, who also translated the Mayas. And she's translated a lot of things, so I've seen from the Portuguese, so good for her. She's awesome. There you go. And The Land at the End of the World, from what I understand, is very akin to All Quiet on the Western Front, but Portuguese and in Portugal. This recounts the anguished tale of a Portuguese medic haunted by memories of war who, like the ancient mariner, will tell his tale to anyone who listens. In the tradition of William Faulkner and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, one of the 20th century's most original literary voices has delivered a haunting and heart-rending meditation on the absurdities of love and war. Apparently it's very stream of consciousness. And I forgot where I heard about this one. Maybe on Goodreads. Maybe I just like saw it on Goodreads in connection with one of these other books. But I'm really excited about this. Really excited. Okay, so then we have a huge pile of books by Jose Saramago, which I've already read one this year. It was my first book of this year, and that was Death with Interruptions, which is about a personification of death, and she has decided she does not want to do her job anymore. So at the beginning of the year, nobody dies, and nobody dies in this country of Portugal for months, and it's how the government reacts to it, how different companies and corporations react to it, how the people react to it, what happens. And that's kind of the first half of this book, and then the second half is death in a more personal sense. Like, we're following her and her experience and her life over the course of, a week or something. And she falls in love with this man, essentially, and it's about him kind of through her eyes as well. So beautiful, so poetic. It did take a little bit to get into his writing style, and it definitely felt like two separate books to me, like totally. The first half of this book felt like something completely different. It was very bird's eye view kind of situation, very objective, and then the second half felt very personal and very much so from Death's eyes, and I just like felt it, man. I just felt it. So I give it 4 stars. I wanted to give it 5 just based on the ending, but yeah, we have that. We have Balthasar and Blamunda, which is, I don't understand exactly what this is about, but it's set in Portugal in 1711, and I think it's about a couple of people, maybe romantic as well, but about the creation of this beautiful, famous work of architecture. Is it a church? I'm not sure, but this was very highly recommended, and a couple of you guys recommended this to me when I mentioned that I was going to Portugal, so I picked this up. I'm excited to get to it. I will be reading this month. It should be the next book that I pick up, but yes. Then we have Blindness, which is also by Jose Saramago, and it is about a city where everybody goes blind and how people react to it. And then Seeing, which apparently is the sequel to Blindness. A lot of people online have read and really liked Blindness, so I'm curious. It's interesting. It seems like similar-ish to Death with Interruptions. Like, how does the world react? How does the country react to this like insane thing that's going on? I don't know. But yeah, we have those two. And then I've owned this book for a long time. It's The Gospel According to Jesus Christ. And it's the story of the life of Jesus Christ and the story of his passion. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't read it, but we have that. Okay. And then last but not least for Portugal is also by Jose Saramago, but it's a freaking nonfiction, bro. And it's called Journey to Portugal in Pursuit of Portugal's History and Culture. And lordy, I was so thrilled when I discovered that this existed because Jose Saramago, well, first of all, it's nonfiction, which should be interesting to like learn more about the country, and pretty informative of its history and locations and what have you. But Jose Saramago is a beautiful, poetic fiction author who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1998. And he's writing a nonfiction about this topic. And I couldn't find any other nonfiction books about Portugal that like sounded remotely interesting to me. And I just think and hope that this is going to be a beautifully written nonfiction about this author like loving all up on his country, you know? So can't wait for this one. So that's my Portugal stack. Now let's talk about Spain. The first and probably most obvious book on this list, or in this stack, is Don Quixote. I have been wanting to read Don Quixote for years and years and years, and I want to read it before going to Spain. Seems the best time to do it. I think a lot of people know what this is about already. So yes. The next book that we have is a book that I'd never heard of before, and they had it in this beautiful Penguin Classics edition, and that is Fortunata and Jacinta by Benito Perez Galdós. It's huge, okay, so we know that it's huge, but let me read you the synopsis, because seriously, I've never heard of this book before. I'm always amazed at, like, learning about literature from all over the world, and learning that there are so many probably amazing works of literature that I just like have never heard of before, or you don't hear in like popular culture in the world that I'm living in, at least. Fortunata and Jacinta is one of the greatest Spanish novels of the 19th century. Set in Madrid during the 1870s, it centers on the destructive jealousy of two women who love the same man. One his wife, the other his mistress. As their story unfolds, Galdós creates an unforgettable portrait of life in Madrid, revealing the city as a variegated fabric of delicate traditions and established vices, of shaky politics and rich intrigue. The novel is strikingly dissimilar from the work of other 19th century novelists, and brings to life an astonishing range of characters in a way that reveals a unique insight into all extremes of human behavior and an ear for social dialogue at every level. I cannot wait for the drama that I'm hoping to get in this book. I cannot wait. So those are the two chunksters we have. The two chunksters. This is a random one, kind of, but the author is from Spain, so that's why it's on this list, and I already owned it. So it's Permafrost by Eva Baltazar, translated by Julia Sanchez, and I've read Boulder by Eva Baltazar a couple years ago, and it was beautifully written. Beautifully written. Wasn't a favorite book of all time, but beautifully written. And this book, from what I understand, is following is about depression, or it has lots of talks about depression in this book, which love that. I'm always really intrigued in a book that's writing about that. I think we're following our main character, and I'm going to read the back, who is a no bullshit lesbian narrator and is an uninhibited lover and a wickedly funny observer of modern life. Desperate to get out of Barcelona, she goes to Brussels because a city whose symbol is a little boy pissing was a city I knew I would like. As an au pair in Scotland, she develops a hatred of the color green, and everywhere she goes, she tries to break out of the roles set for her by her family and society. Chasing escape wherever it can be found, love affairs, travel, thoughts of suicide. Yeah, so I'm assuming this is going to be beautifully written. I know it's not like set in Spain, but the author is from Spain, and I already own this book, so I might as well prioritize it before my trip. You know what I mean? Then we have this book, which I'd never heard of before. It's called Nada by Carmen Laforet, translated by Edith Grossman. And this is apparently renowned as Spain's The Catcher in the Rye. Seriously, well, what the heck? I'm so excited about this. It's a coming-of-age novel following a rebellious young woman in chaotic, polarized, post-Civil War Barcelona. And she goes and stays with her family or something, and has dark humor. And it's about women facing society post-war. And she becomes wise. Potentially, I don't know, I just read the back. I can't wait for this. I'd never heard of this before. It's a beautiful edition. I'm so excited. Hopefully I love it. Then, and I'll try to link down below a video where I heard this mentioned. I'm going to try to find it. It was a woman interviewing people at a book fair in Spain, and she was asking them about classics from their country and books that they had to read in school and a bunch of other questions. But this was something that a few of them mentioned, and that is Federico Garcia Lorca's 3 plays. So Blood Wedding, Yerma, and specifically the one that I bought this for is The House of Bernarda Alba. So 3 plays, and I love reading plays, but I find I don't reach for them as much. I always get nervous reading them, or I always get nervous thinking about reading them, thinking it's going to be challenging or hard for me to get into. And maybe there's some truth to that, but I've always really enjoyed reading plays every time that I've read one. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I really just want to read The House of Bernarda Alba, but I'd be happy to read the other 2 as well. And it was just available at Barnes & Noble, and I thought it was fate. I'm yeah, excited to get to that. This book has been on my radar for years and years and years, and I've heard absolutely nothing but phenomenal things. And in December, because of this whole project, I bit the bullet and I bought it, okay? And that is A Heart So White by Javier Marias. I cannot wait. I'm going to read you the synopsis because I feel like it really makes you want to read the book, and it's going to do a better job than I would of explaining it. In the middle of a family lunch, Teresa, just married, goes to the bathroom, unbuttons her blouse, and shoots herself in the heart. What made her kill herself immediately after her honeymoon? Years later, this mystery fascinates the young newlywed Juan, whose father was married to Teresa before he married Juan's mother. As Juan edges closer to the truth, he begins to question his own relationships and whether he really wants to know what happened. A Heart So White is a breathtaking portrayal of 2 generations, 2 marriages, and the relentless power of the past and the terrible price of knowledge. Can't wait for this. I knew I had to have it because of this whole situation. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Okay, this has been on my yearly TBRs that I set for the past 2 years. Okay, The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. Had to be on this list, you know what I mean? It had to be on this list. He goes to Barcelona in this book and sees bullfights. Yeah, he's in the bullfighting arenas of Spain. He is also in Paris in this book, but Spain is in this. You know? So that's why this is here. I have to read this. I'm excited to read this. The Sun Also Rises. Last but not least, okay, we have a nonfiction. So for each of these countries, I decided to do one nonfiction because I don't want more than one. And also it's good to have one nonfiction. So that's my simple logic there. There you go. Ghost of Spain. Travels through Spain and its silent past by Giles Tremlett. And I will try to link down below the video where I saw this book mentioned. And it was a video from a man who runs a channel all about Spain. Like, I think he teaches English in Spain, or please do not quote me on that. He lives in Spain. I think he's a teacher. I watched a couple of his videos. I'm excited to watch a few more. But he made a video talking about books, or 10 books he thinks everyone should read before going to Spain. And this was, can you believe that video existed? Just for me to find. Yeah, no, it was so helpful. And he said this was his #1 recommendation of a book for people to read before they go to Spain. So I'm like, there you go, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna read it, all right? I don't know anything about the history of Spain, really, nothing specifically. I really wanna learn about the Spanish Civil War. I really wanna learn about the Spanish Civil War. I think it's going to be interesting and fascinating. I've recently been watching, don't worry, this ties into this. I've recently been watching the Winston Churchill documentary series about how he handled World War II on Netflix, and been loving it, by the way. It's very good. Very interesting. And in that documentary series, there's been a lot of maps flashing up on the page. You know what I mean? And I've been really intrigued because throughout all of Europe, when Nazi Germany was like going everywhere, they never went into Spain and Portugal. And I, not knowing this, like, why, I'm like, why? I turned to my partner and I'm like, who is like fascinated with World War II, it's his Roman Empire. And I'm like, why didn't they go to Spain? Why didn't they go to Spain? I'm just curious, you know, because that's empty on this map the whole time. And he's like, I don't know, that's interesting. So we looked it up, and it is because at that time, the Spanish Civil War was going on. Or it was the Spanish Civil War was like right before this World War II happened. And I find that just like scratched something in my brain that I was like, wow, that's fascinating. What a time to be alive in the world. Insane. I must learn about the Spanish Civil War for several reasons now. So yeah, I think this book is about that from what I understand. And there's also a lot of essays just about the culture in Spain. But I have it. And I'm excited about it. So yes, those are my 2 stacks of books for Spain and Portugal. I'm excited. This is my new personality. This is my new reading fixation, and I'm excited about it. I'm hoping to get all of these books read before May, before the end of May. So I'll do what I do with that, you know what I mean? So yeah, if you have any recommendations, I'm still open for recommendations. I did get a recommendation for a book called The Migrant Painter of Birds by Lydia George. Is it Jorge or George? I don't know. Jorge. translated, I believe, by Margaret Jewel Costa, who's all over the place. Love her. Gotta love her for it. I am really excited to pick up The Migrant Painter of Birds, but I'm not going to pick it up yet just because of book buying goals that I have this year. I kind of want to read that maybe like on my flight or like while I'm there, so I'm not going to pick that up anytime soon, but I'm very interested in it. I was recommended that by Shannon from the channel A Truth Universally Acknowledged, and I will oh my god, I can't talk, and I will link her channel down below. I believe she's also going to Portugal this year, which is awesome, and she has great informative videos, and she talks about classics, and she loves Jane Austen, so check her out. But yes, I'm open for recommendations. Have you guys read any of these books? What are your thoughts on them? I would love to hear. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.